Prepare to get gas because it's time for the Week in Gear. I'm Andy and welcome to the show that brings you the most exciting guitar gear released in the last 7 days. This episode is brought to you by the Patreon supporters and YouTube members. You see those names scrolling on the screen right now? They are making the show possible. And if you'd like to get your name on screen or even get a shout out from me, stick around and I will tell you how to make that happen. Now, let's kick off this week with a stripped back metal weapon that just got an upgrade. This is the brand new Fender limited edition Jim Root Telecaster in Shoreline Gold. It's pretty, isn't it? But underneath that beautiful limited edition finish, the technical specifications are unchanged and are exactly what make this instrument a certified metal powerhouse. Now, instead of traditional ash or alder, the foundation is built around a solid mahogany body, which also features a deeply sculpted belly cut and a contoured neck heel for better access to those upper frets. Screwed onto that bit of mahogany block is a maple neck carved to a modern C profile. Something fell over in the studio then, I don't know if you heard it. A modern C profile, exactly, that's how I feel about it. With a smooth satin urethane finish. Less, because I do dig a urethane finish. It is topped with a flatter than usual 12-inch radius ebony fingerboard, complete with classic white dot position markers, 22 jumbo frets, and a bi-flex truss rod, that's a pretty name, adjustable right up at the headstock. As for the electronics, you get an absolute tank-like pair of active humbuckers. That's an EMG 60 up at the neck and a classic EMG 81 down at the bridge. The signal routing is pretty bare bones. That's a standard 3-position blade switch and a single master volume control, finished with a black plastic Strat style knob. The rest of the hardware is finished in deep black to match that single ply pickguard, and you get premium staggered cast and sealed locking tuners. That's a 4-bolt custom neck plate and a solid 6-string saddle string-through body hardtail bridge. The guitar comes protected inside a traditional black tweed hardshell case. That is lined with a plush and gorgeous red interior, and it lands globally at a regular retail price of around 2,000 notes, depending on where you are. Now, let's talk reality here. Over $2,000 for an Ensenada built signature model is going to cause a massive intake of breath for a lot of players at the checkout counter. But Jim Root's Telecaster is widely considered one of the most rugged, reliable, and punchy metal production platforms that Fender has ever built. In fact, anyone has ever built. Also, the original Jim Root Tele was released in 2010 and cost around 1,500 notes, which, adjusting for inflation, is actually a little more than what this new Shoreline Gold version is going for. Now, I'm not sure who we blame for all of that, but stop making our gear more expensive. This guitar really makes me regret selling my Squier version. That was a great guitar, even with the modern C neck. The gasometer flies straight up to an enthusiastic add to cart. Links are in the description. Next up, Epiphone have teamed up with one of country music's most assertive voices to give a legendary Gibson silhouette a complete visual and structural overhaul. This is the brand new Epiphone Eric Church Hummingbird Dark. Now, the classic Hummingbird is usually known for its bright cherry bursts and ornate heritage visuals, but this signature model leans heavily into a broody finish, like if Christopher Nolan made country music. It's Batman playing an acoustic. The entire body is wrapped in a dark gloss Cobra Burst finish, which I dig heavily. It features a custom pickguard decorated with silver and Carolina blue accents to match Eric's roots. The build consists of layered mahogany back and sides, paired with a solid European spruce top. It features a mahogany set neck using a tapered dovetail joint, a comfortable rounded C profile, oh mama, and a 12-inch radius rosewood fretboard. Do you want 18 standard frets? Well, you get that, plus 2 more. You get 20 standard frets, a 43mm plastic nut, a 24 3/4-inch scale length, and the fretboard is adorned with grey perloid split parallelogram inlays. The Kalamazoo style headstock sports Grover automatic tuners, a grey and black mother of pearl logo, a Gibson crown inlay, and a gold reproduction of Eric's signature stamped on the back. Hot diggity. Now, the most interesting spec is that Epiphone went ahead and carved the standard Hummingbird body down to a 4-inch performer depth, and this slightly reduced front to back thickness claims to make it more comfortable. It comes equipped with a Fishman Sonocore under-saddle pickup, and that's wired to a Fishman Presys VT preamp system, and it ships inside a black hardshell case featuring Eric's signature reproduced on the exterior. Purists who want an all-solid wood vintage heritage acoustic may scoff at layered mahogany back and sides, but this guitar isn't designed to sit in a museum. It is engineered to be a reliable, highly gig-ready workhorse that can handle the humidity changes of traveling on the road. And this slimmer body depth is practical. The Fishman setup is mostly bulletproof, and the styling looks incredibly sharp, in my opinion. I'm a huge fan of the red Sunburst Hummingbird, the standard one you see everywhere, but there's something about this Cobra Burst that makes me want to buy a wooden guitar playing stool and a hat and start drinking whiskey again. This Epiphone is coming in at just under 800 notes, and although I am yet to hear one of his songs, I think Eric Church has got great taste in guitar finishes and specs for that price point. The gasometer slithers up to a very solid add to cart. Before we head into the second half of this gear roundup, I'd like to take a quick moment to say a massive heartfelt thank you to the official sponsors of today's episode, our Patreon members and YouTube channel supporters. If you enjoy the show and you want to support the show, you can join either Patreon or YouTube and get your name into the show, become a part of it. Follow the links below and be a part of the Week in Gear. It has been found that people who do sleep better, live longer, and are generally happier people. Well, maybe just the last one. Links down below. Up next, this is the brand new Walrus Audio Lume texture engine. And the whole philosophy behind the Lume is to serve as a creative remedy for those moments when your standard delays and reverbs start to feel completely predictable. To pull this off, the engineers essentially combined elements from 3 of their most famous ambient processors: the Slur reverb, the Law reverse soundscape generator, and the Fable granular soundscape generator into a single creative platform. It fractures, it stretches, it completely deconstructs your signal using granular processing, dual reverb algorithms, and real-time parameter automation. Ooh. But the real party trick here is that secondary momentary foot switch. The Lume allows you to map an automation path for any of the 5 top knobs between a starting value and an ending value, and when you step on and hold that moment switch, the pedal will automatically ramp those parameters from your start point to your end point with selectable ramp speeds, ranging from a pretty much instant 10 milliseconds up to a slow, drifting 5 whole seconds. It runs on standard 9-volt DC power. It features 3 onboard presets, selectable trails or no trails, and comes wrapped in either a matte black or a rather striking guava finish. It lands globally at around just under 300 notes. Now, I have one in the studio that will be getting the video review treatment next week, and I am extremely excited. Honestly, if you're a strict blues or rock purist, this pedal is an absolute mountain of unnecessary complexity. But if you love glitchy, pitch-stretched granular layers and new sonic landscapes, this is an absolute goldmine. The gasometer easily, granularly leaps straight past the checkout line and lands on a highly enthusiastic buy it now.
Pick of the week.
Yes, we have arrived at my pick of the week, and it is a massive, generational sequel to a pedal that has spent the last decade and a half completely anchoring professional pedal boards worldwide. This is the brand new Strymon Timeline MX. At first glance, it keeps that familiar, sleek, gunmetal grey chassis, but the old character display, the retro-looking one, has been swapped out for a large, ultra-bright, multi-view OLED screen positioned right in the centre of the panel. And this should make navigating presets and tweaking those sub-parameters under harsh stage lights infinitely easier. Strymon replaced the older processor with a almost blistering 800 MHz tri-core ARM processor running 32-bit floating point processing. And all that extra processing muscle unlocks the one massive feature that players have been begging for, true dual engine processing. Yes, the Timeline MX allows you to fire up any two independent delay machines simultaneously, routing them in series or parallel or split into distinct panning spaces across the stereo field. The pedal features 12 highly distinct machines to navigate. You also get a heavily upgraded multi-tap engine with up to 8 independently adjustable taps. That is almost too many taps. There's even a massive dedicated reverb engine inspired by the Flint processor, and that's to handle everything from tight rooms to sprawling atmospheric washes. The back panel has TRS stereo connectivity, providing selectable input and output routing for stereo setups or mono operations, wet dry configurations, or a true hardware effects loop. There's an expression input, there's full 5-pin MIDI DIN sockets alongside USB-C MIDI capability, and a completely overhauled stereo looper that jacks the recording limit up to a massive 5 minutes of stereo tracking time. That's a long time. The Timeline MX is a huge upgrade to one of the true modern classic pedals, and it comes at a price point to match that status. The Timeline MX is coming in at just under 700 notes, which is a huge investment for any pedal. But I still think this will be a big seller for Strymon. I heard some samples, and it's my pick of the week because I would simply love to be able to do what that pedal can do. This is a month full of lost evenings just sitting with the presets. The gasometer effortlessly leaps straight to a highly confident and rather surprised wallet on fire. I really didn't think this would give me gas, but it does, and I don't really understand why. Here's the QR code if you're watching on the telly, and you can scan that to find all the gear from this episode at one of my retail partners, but as always, clickable links are in the video description. And now, a special shout out to the top tier supporting members. Here we go! Antonio Cruz Barreto, Buddha Blue, Boom Shakalaka, Buzzle, Chris Kelly, Craig's Fist, Darth Bagel, David Meyer, Dirk, Doug Paget, Fuzz Onkel, Yindrik Strelka, Johnny McBadminton, Kultur Pop, Mike CQB 241, Mike Lute, Andrew Morgan, Craig Verber, Darius Lives, Gary O'Neill, Josh Tamberg, Man, Dude, Bro, Fat Raptor, PQ Deads, Sarang Narayan, Sanya Chen, Sarah Marie, Searching for Tone, Southern Panda 33, Thunderbird Calls, TWIG is Inconceivable Brilliant Good Showman. Thank you very much, top tier members. Let me know your pick of the week and use the word holiday in the comments to show the world that you watched to the end. Bye-bye!